what are the things that basically make this container work, and how many of them you can stack, and what are the configurations that you can have with this. No? If, how many different ways you can start with one container and then start adding other containers in order to create a space. And every configuration has a certain pro and con. No? And this is just an exercise, and this is part of her exercise trying to understand her limitations. So she opted to have, oh, I thought we were going to go to another slide before this one, to a very basic configuration. This is saying the 40-footer. And there you have sort of something that you can do with this place, and it's not a bad house. It's a nice little cabin. No, you have a bathroom, a kitchen, a sitting area, and your bedroom. Your bedroom is part of the sitting area. No, you can create a little porch. You can elevate it or not. The elevation means that you can adjust it to any kind of terrain. No, the legs will move up and down. And so she started thinking, if this is the case, maybe I should work with containers. No? And if I have this container, this 40-footer high box container, what I'm going to do is create an ABC kind of pattern. I think the A is the one that we saw before. Yeah, that's the A. And the A has a toilet, a sink, and a shower on one end and a kitchen, and the rest is all open where you put your furniture. The B has just a kitchen unit, the C has a full bathroom as opposed to a semi-bathroom, and the D is just an empty space. So what she started doing in the thesis is try to organize her ideas and say, if I'm going to do a modular quick response system, I'm going to start producing a series of containers that have something to do with the possibilities of how I'm going to put it together. Now, doors and windows can be added at 4, 8, or 12-foot intervals in the structure of the container. So she took advantage of that and started organizing all of the spaces inside in 4, 8, or 12-foot intervals. No? And of course, the idea of insulation and HVAC that is actually, for this exercise, is a little secondary. So how many ways can you put this A, B, C, D together and create different kinds of housings? There you have it. You have different ways. Now you can have it in a linear way. You can have a T square. You can have a Z shape. You can have courtyards, a totally enclosed courtyard, an open courtyard, or an H. And all of this works with her system. And this is the important thing, is that she set herself very clear rules of how to start working and how to produce these. So in the design application, she started thinking about, if I'm going to use the container as my shelter, how can I go from temporary housing to permanent housing? And if the idea is that the first thing that I want to have after a hurricane, when my house has been blown away, is I want to have a place in which I can live secure with a bathroom and a kitchen, and where I can sleep without being in the open. That's Unit 8. That's where Unit 8 opens. And that's the same, the plan that you're seeing on the left is a little picture that, in case you have forgotten it, is that picture there. That's the unit that you get right after the hurricane. You see the base is modular. It can be shaped to any size according to the terrain, even putting it on the ground. If it's raised, you can deal with the plumbing very easily without having to worry about any kind of details. The porch is something that has to come with the height once you have it there. So I have my house. And that house, I can start expanding it. And I can start expanding it to something that will become a permanent housing like the one on the right. So for that, you have to sort of get very serious about how are you going to work. So here I am. I start with my original idea. And by the way, things like porches, those are all shelf items. You buy the porch by the foot. You can buy a 4-foot entrance. You can buy a 12-foot porch. You can buy a 40-foot porch if you want to. And it gets clipped and gets treated immediately as part of the house. In this case, add a second one on the back. Remove the walls. She unfortunately flipped it. No, it should be the other way around. So you can remove the walls. You have a double wide trailer. you have a double wide container and a much bigger space. In this case, the porch again is a push-up thing. Now, I have on the side another couple of containers, and this time I'm getting myself a master bedroom, a second bedroom, another bathroom. So now I have my 2-bathroom, 2-bedroom, really nice house. The aesthetics is something that it changes. If I put a second floor, how am I going to incorporate a stair? The stair is on the upper right on the plan. You can see it there. It's a space that if you have a 2-story, you don't worry about it. You have it as a closet, as a storage, but you can clip it and have the stair installed and get your second floor. So now you have a master bedroom, with 2 bedrooms down below, and or 2 master bedrooms, depending on how you want to organize it. If you have a second story there, you have the roof of the 1-story, so you can go ahead and open that and create a little terrace. All of this is part of the modular system that she developed. And she also added the unit D in order to start enclosing the courtyard into something more private. Very nice. It's starting to take shape as a very nice house. And there you have a first level and a second level. It's not a bad house. It's all made out of containers. Here we have some of the plants, and all the windows, they all fit within the system that she created for the container. I'm just going to go around pretty fast, showing everything, sections, elevations, and then we get to the actual house. The roof is all part of a system that you can buy a roof that's that wide or half the width. It doesn't matter. You can do it automatically, which is not a bad house. It's actually something that doesn't resemble a container anymore, which is what's nice, creating a very, very private space in the back, very, very nice for the Florida weather with the overhang of the roof. Now, spaces inside that are narrow, but they open into a courtyard. This is a double space. Now, the rest, of course, this is the narrowness of them all, the long bedroom, master bedroom, terrace. I don't want to spend much time. Okay, so then she goes to the conclusions of which is very important, that quote there, that reconstruction begins the day of the disaster, not a week later. And this is basically her solution, in the sense that we don't have to stay with one. We start with one, and then we increase depending on money, depending on interest. And this is containers. This could be something else. The process was very straightforward. I think that that's all that I have for her presentation. Now we talk. So we can turn the lights on, actually. So what I show you there is a pretty straightforward. It's a pretty straightforward process that worked very well for her in her particular thesis. But it is a process that's applicable to everyone. You have your big idea. You start looking for that information that supports that idea. You start building a narrative that's going to support and explain your idea. And then you start looking for all the parts that are going to contribute to your design. And that's historic, technological, all the precedents that you can find. It's an ABC step. This is one of the things that worked with her thesis, is that she didn't jump. She went doing every step at a time, one step at a time, of building it up. Is the house an exciting house? That's up to you to determine. The process is very good. How she got there. The rest has to do with you as a designer or not. But the process is the the important thing in the thesis. It's a good exercise for everyone to see how, from an idea, you can come into a solution that actually says your idea was a very good idea, or your idea was not that good, but it could be changed, it could be modified if you do these changes, or the idea was definitively not a working idea, but you know that now. No, it doesn't mean that your thesis is a failed thesis. It means that you just prove that you had an idea for something that doesn't work. Do you have questions? Which is a good thing to know. No? So I don't know if this is what you all wanted to hear. No. But it's a very good example of what you're doing right now.
Was that the presentation she gave?
Yeah. Can be done better. Yes.
I'm curious if either privately or publicly she critiqued her process, and if so, what slippages did she identify? And if she didn't, did you sense slippages that would be something you would critique to strengthen her approach?
One thing was her actual thesis, the other one was the thesis presentation. No, her thesis is much bigger than this, no, much more detailed. The presentation, the thesis presentation is not as smooth as I would have liked it to be. You have, in order to build something that is very different, you have to go, basically you have to grab the audience by their hand and go step by step very quickly without being condescending. You know? You're trying to explain. So that's something that is, in some cases, it jumps a little bit forward and then goes back, and it's not that easy to follow. But so that was one thing. The other detail that missed a little bit was in the process. You know, we talked a lot about this kind of thesis requires a catalog. You know, the catalog is not just the four floor plans, but it requires a catalog of the stuff that's outside, the covers, the entrance, the stairs, the type of windows that you can buy. And by a catalog, we mean a catalog. No, you have it's your design, but you have a small window, a medium-sized window, a large window, a full, ceiling to floor window. That's your catalog. Can you use it? She did the division that it could be every, that 4, 8, 12 feet is, that's the way the structure of the containers work. So she explained that, but it would have been nice to have that catalog that tells me this is the kind of door or window. I'm not talking to you about the design, it has to be double hung, or it has to be casement or awning. That's not the issue. The issue is the actual size and how it affects the composition. It's like the front door of that house. She got stuck with that suburban front door that had very little to do with something that is high-tech material, but she wanted that front door. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's just a door. What's important is that no, she went with a double door. That's the kind of stuff. It's a single door, double door, sliding door, swinging door, how it affects the space inside or outside. That would be nice. It would have been nice to have it in a catalog.
So because the thesis was about a kit of parts, you wanted a more thorough portrayal of the kit of parts.
Very good point, because what it has to do is, depending on what thesis you are making, if you get yourself into this thesis, you need to have a very thorough kit of parts. Because that's what this thesis is about. Now, this thesis is about having a yard somewhere that has all this kit of parts. The container A, no. The container A is manufacturer, A, B, C, D, they are manufactured. But the rest is all kit of parts. No? So you start very quickly, you give shelter to people, then you evolve, because that's the thesis, is how to evolve from a shelter, from a temporary shelter to a permanent house. And that's in a certain way a little bit of a missing step there. So based on what you're doing, make sure that you are explaining that in your presentation, in your thesis, of course, very well.
I think there's several theses here which involve menus where the students are looking at some issue that involves little expressions that are separate, you know, and the whole notion of kit of parts or menu applies to several other approaches.
So that's very important. The key of parts is it's not just telling me that you have thought about it, but it's also telling me that you have looked at it in not just a particular for your solution, but I can come and I can grab the same kit of parts and do a very different house, you know? And I can visualize that in the presentation. Okay, so yeah, so that's a very important point. How many of you are doing theses that have to do with basically a kit of parts of some sort? No. One, two.
I think it is.
Your hand kind of lifted.
Yeah, I think you qualify, because he's doing biomimicry, which involves analyzing nature and extracting principles. I think he's obligating himself to look at a range of extractions from nature.
The most important thing for it, actually for any thesis, is that whatever you whatever is your goal, you have to put this stuff on the table, and you cannot have one paper covering the other. They all have to be visible. You have to be able to see whatever you're working with. If you're working with social issues, you have to see your social issues. If you're working with a technological issue, you have to see them all. If you're working with a kit of part, you have to see your options. One of the things that she didn't get to finish is the roofs of the container, because she had in her research what to do with that. You know, we were talking about a green roof. You know, that requires some technological clip-on. No, and the container is there. You just clip on another roof. You have your green roof. If you have a terrace, like the terrace, you have to have that. If you don't have that, can you have a pitched roof and have an attic? Sure. No, I don't know why, but you could if you wanted to. No? So, but that's the stuff that in a certain way was missing there. It's don't be afraid to be very exhaustive about putting everything. It's a dumb process. A, B, C. Don't skip D. D goes there. Everyone goes there.
If I was coming into this particular thesis cold like I am, because I wasn't familiar with what she did, one of the things we talked about in here is even your very title and the words that are used imply investigative obligations.
Yes.
And what I would fasten on is home, whether she researched concepts of home just as a topic, and whether or not concepts of home are compatible with the container, and if not, why. I could see that as an avenue of investigation that she may or may not have looked at.
I don't think that she looked at the way that you're placing it, you're putting it, she didn't look at it. The way that you're putting it, it implies a different thesis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are the current values of or concepts of home and the current constructions that we have?
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it the home something that really fits into a neo-Georgian house, not just a container house? I have doubts about that too, because that's not about home, that's about symbols.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't get there. I mean, but she should have, in a certain way, looked at the few container homes that have been built and see if there's any reporting reactions of what it is to live in one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And they're plenty around to find out. But that is a good point. That's what I like when if I go to a real estate agent and say, what kind of home you're looking for? I say a happy one.
Like affirming.
Yeah. Now, what type of house? That's different. One story, two story. So there are things that now we need to sort of define. And it's true. This is, if it was temporary, she doesn't have to deal with that.
Right.
But because it becomes permanent, is this something that, what's the kind of home that will be generated by this type of construction?
And she pursued it the way that you want a Christian to pursue it. She started the design first, or immediately.
No, actually, she did a lot of the document first, but we got her started the design really early on. Really early on. And the reason for that is that a lot of the design is going to throw away. No, the design is a way to find a solution, not the solution. No, eventually your design is going to get closer and closer to the solution. But it's really a way to get there. No, it's a tool. So if you start drawing right now, even if you don't know what it is, and even if you don't show it to your chair, but you start drawing, that's percolating there. You know, it's cooking, and you will start sort of maturing those ideas. Especially in our schedule, we have such a limited amount of time. If you wait until next semester to start design, it's way too late, from my point of view. So.
Yeah, we mentioned that, and also the fact that by immersing or entering into the design process, it also can back up and influence your literature search, precedents you look at, and the way you analyze your topic. So there's a dialogue there.
It's not a linear process, no, it's a mosaic. It's constantly feeding, everything is feeding each other and modifying each other. So the sooner you get into more pieces, to all the pieces of your mosaic, the sooner that you'll be able to adjust them and move them around, and get a better result. Would you have to work more? Probably. No, because you'll have to move more pieces, more time. But on the other hand, that will produce a much better result. Frankly, any of you, if we give you the exercise of containers and make a house that will go from temporary to permanent, you can make it very easily. We don't have to go through this process of thesis. But that's not what this is all about. What's about this is all about thinking about the possibilities, thinking about expanding the horizon, not just about being proficient on building something. That's why you have to get into all of these areas in order to start in all the areas of the thesis, including design, in order to start seeing which one is the one that has more relevance or more solidity, and start feeding and directing the other parts of your thesis. But the more you advance in all of them, and you have to do a lot of the research, the basic research before you start with an idea. If you're doing, earthquake-proof buildings, you better learn about earthquakes, and you better learn about the buildings that have survived and the buildings that have failed and why. Now, before you even start thinking about a design.
She had a built-in tidy relationship between the topic and her design application. It was obvious what she had to work into design-wise, because she researched emergency housing, containers, brought her into container design. A lot of these guys were researching topics where the application was not as obvious. And some of them were wrestling with, okay, if I'm researching this, what is a relevant architectural situation to apply that to, so that the project isn't just some trivial thing you pull out of your hip pocket. You can see it's a test for something or playing out of something. And the same thing is true in some cases with the topics at the site. They're not arbitrary visitors and interlopers. That there's got to be some defense of why this project on that site, given the fact your scholarship was this,
Her application changed at one point. She started looking at a series of instant shelters basically all over the world, from South America to the Far East. And at one point she was going in the direction of creating a building, just a metal building that can withstand hurricanes. And the metal building has a certain amount of land where the state, the federal government, sorry, buys plots of land, within certain distance in which they store this bamboo and the equipment necessary to tie it together and also plastic. So you can build very quickly shelters, very quickly at virtually no cost. And that's when some of the containers were part of one possibility, and she started getting, probably because of the fashion with containers today, she started getting more and more with containers. But that flexibility, she had a very different solution for the thesis at one point. It wasn't about the object, the building, but it was about the possibility of a government or a private institution, if you are the government, that will have this series of lots, and from there distribute this material.
Sort of design a system rather than an object.
Yeah. Yeah. So in a certain way, maybe it was easier for her to go to the object because it's very concrete. But for example, what are some of the theses that you guys have that are not object oriented at this point?
Before you move to that, I'm trying to figure out, her topic is from shelter to home.
From shelter to home?
Yes.
So you're very much into this idea, no?
Oh, no, she's talking about.
Her, yeah. So, I understand the concept of using the container because it's this temporary structure and you keep adding stuff to make it permanent. But if she was using the bamboo, how would it fit into the top?
That would have been a totally different thesis. That was a system of emergency shelter.
She wouldn't have taken on the design of the shelters per se. She would have designed the infrastructure that provided the shelter.
Oh, so she would only deal with temporary.
Yeah, she would only deal with temporary. And as a matter of fact, not that temporary. There are some examples, especially in the Middle East, using bamboo structure for the roof and earth around walls. That is pretty permanent.
I guess those all out of bamboo in Jamaica where they treat it and everything and turn it into a permanent structure.
Yeah. No, bamboo is a fabulous renewable resource. It grows very fast, it grows very well, it's very structurally very sound, it has a lot of very good qualities. So that's what she was going into that direction. Something that's light, it's strong, it's flexible, it's easy to grow. You don't need a lot of land to grow a lot of bamboo. But that was a different thesis.
It was one of the branches off of her scholarship.
It was one of the branches, which is important to go and do this and explore another branch. So you figure out, no, maybe I'm in the wrong direction. Maybe I should adjust my direction to this other thing. Never be afraid of doing it too late. Michelangelo did it. 3 years painting the Sistine Chapel, and he threw it out, he demolished everything. 3 years. Imagine you guys, 3 months. Okay, but that's an important thing, and this is also why it's important to get into the design early on, because in a certain way that is a branching, and it might give you a perspective of what you're doing, and you will say, you know what, I like this, but I see some other thing here that's very important. Maybe you should go with that little thing, and it changes your thesis completely.
Yeah, I think it's really common, remembering past theses myself, where you embark on the application of your scholarship, the building and the site, and you have this sense of what the nature of the challenge is going to be, and you enter into it, and you see that if you just change it 2 degrees,
Yeah.
it hits your scholarship more squarely.
Yeah.
It's a tailoring of the nature of the application.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And sometimes I agree, it's almost nothing, and so you realize that almost nothing is making a tremendous weight, behind you, and it's really working way better. The issue is not to be afraid to do it.
said, for just getting started in a muddled sort of way. There's something intimidating about having nothing of any chapters written, but getting over the hump by just starting to produce something so you can see piles beginning to accumulate, even though you know you're gonna modify. And the same is true with the design, just beginning to diagram and fiddle and get some product there that you can then build on.
Exactly, and it doesn't matter if you throw it away. You know, the thing is that it starts giving you some solid ground on which to stand. But I agree. I mean, one of the hardest things is to get your idea going, and for that, the more you read, the more that you're going to be able to distill, your idea, and based on the information that you're getting, and the more ground that you're going to build around itself, which is good. It makes it easier.
Well, we're having a great conversation. You guys have questions out there? Anybody thinking about their own approach and what's going on?
Like in my thesis, when you said kid of parks, I started thinking about kid of spaces. Mine is more of a poetic thesis where I'm looking at the numinous and applying that in a poetic manner to an airport. And so I started thinking about a kid of spaces because what I end up having is different types of spaces that respond to different waiting points in an airport and movement through it. And wasn't sure if you had a thesis like that.
No, but the first name that popped in my head was fractional Pride.
Very good.
Because he already got it, because of the spaces, the tailoring the space to the activity that's happening here, and that's how you compress groups and expand the groups and all that. I mean, he was very aware of that quality, that what really makes architecture is the space. Then you can dress it up in many, many different ways. But that poetics, space is what we sell. That which you cannot touch is what we sell. And so the idea of approaching poetics of space, airport, train station, hospital, school of architecture, you got that point. But school of architecture, that's great. That's really great. Louis Kahn is a master of the poetics of space. That's a very good name for you to know.
Any last